An AI benchmark is a public test for models. It looks like a scoreboard. Same questions, many models, one score. That makes comparison easier. But a benchmark is not the whole truth. First, it only tests what is inside the test. Math problems, coding tasks, reading questions, tool tasks, or image questions. If your real app is support tickets or medical notes, that public score may not match your world. Second, models can be trained around popular benchmarks. If the model has seen similar questions, the score can look better than the real ability. Third, one average can hide failure types. A model might score high overall, but still fail on long context, policy rules, or the exact edge case your product needs. So read a benchmark like a map, not a verdict. Useful reports show the test name, the task mix, the scoring rule, and examples of mistakes. Strong teams use public benchmarks for a first signal, then private evals for their own product. Simple idea. A benchmark is a shared scoreboard. It helps compare models, but it does not prove your AI system will work. Coming next, human in the loop. When AI should stop and ask a person. Some AI systems should not act alone. Human in the loop means a person stays inside the workflow at important decision points. The AI can draft, rank, recommend, or prepare an action. But before the risky step happens, a human reviews it. They can approve, edit, reject, or send it back. Think of a self-driving feature. The system can help with the road. But in a dangerous moment, a person may still need control. For AI agents, this shows up as checkpoints. Before sending an email, before moving money, before deleting a file, before giving medical, legal, or security advice. The point is not to make every step manual. Low-risk work can stay automatic. Uncertain or high-impact work gets escalated. Good human-in-the-loop design has three parts: clear triggers, a simple review screen, and a record of who approved what. Bad design just says, ask a human with no timing, context, or responsibility. Simple idea. Human in the loop means the AI can help, but a person owns the critical decision. Coming next, agent memory. How agents remember what matters for the next step. An AI agent can take actions, but if every step starts from zero, it gets lost. Agent memory is the information an AI system keeps, so the next step is not blind. There are two kinds to understand. Working memory is short-term. It holds the current goal, recent messages, and tool results while the task is happening. Long-term memory is slower. It stores useful facts, preferences, past outcomes, or documents the agent may need later. When the agent acts, it does not pour every memory into the model. It retrieves the relevant pieces, places them into the current context, and then chooses the next action. That is why memory is not the same as the context window. Context is what the model can see right now. Memory is what the system can save and fetch later. Good memory needs filters. What should be saved? Who can read it? Is it still true? And should a human approve it? If memory is noisy, private, or outdated, the agent can make worse choices with confidence. Simple idea. Agent memory is not a brain. It is a controlled notebook the system writes to and searches before the next move. Coming next, observability. How teams see what agents are doing. An AI agent can look busy, but if no one can see what happened inside, it is hard to trust. Observability is the system that records what an AI agent did, why it did it, and where it failed. Think of it like a flight recorder for an agent. It captures the user goal, the plan, each tool call, the input sent to the model, the output it returned, time, cost, errors, and approvals. That turns a messy run into a trace, a step-by-step timeline. If the answer is wrong, observability helps teams replay the trace. Did the model choose the wrong tool? Did a search return bad data? Did the agent loop too long? Did a guardrail block the action? Without observability, teams only see the final answer. With observability, they can see the path. It also helps improve the system. Teams measure latency, cost, success rate, failure patterns, and risky actions. Then they fix prompts, tools, guardrails, or memory. Important: observability is not the same as surveillance. Good systems record what is needed, protect private data, and make logs useful for debugging. Simple idea. Observability is the dashboard that lets humans see an agent's work, not just its final answer. Coming next, AI governance. The rules and ownership behind reliable AI. AI governance is not a committee that appears after something breaks. It is the operating system around an AI system. It answers 4 questions. Who owns this AI? What rules does it have to follow? What needs approval before it acts? And what record proves it behaved correctly? Picture an AI workflow moving on rails. A user request enters. The model decides. A tool may act. Data may be used. An answer leaves. Governance adds checkpoints around that path. A policy gate says, is this allowed? An owner badge says, who is responsible? An approval gate says, does a human need to review? A record log says, what happened, when, and why? Without governance, teams just ship a powerful black box and hope nothing goes wrong. With governance, risky actions slow down, private data is protected, changes are reviewed, and every important step leaves an audit trail. It also connects other AI safety pieces. Evals test the system, observability shows what happened, guardrails block dangerous actions, governance decides who sets those rules, who can override them, and who signs off before deployment. Simple idea, AI governance is the rulebook, ownership map, and audit trail that make an AI system accountable. Coming next, prompt injection, when hidden instructions try to hijack an AI system. Prompt injection happens when ordinary text tries to become a hidden command. Think of a simple control tower. At the top is system policy. This is the highest rule set, always fixed, always trusted. In the middle is the user request. This can ask for helpful work, summarize, write, compare. At the bottom is raw input, pages, emails, files, tool output. Input is useful context, but it is not authority. A prompt injection is untrusted text that says, ignore the policy, or it says, treat this sentence as a higher rule. Either way, it is an attempt to climb from data into control. In chat, it may change tone or leak details. In AI agents, it can redirect actions toward commands that should have been blocked. A document could try to ask for file edits, sending messages, or payment calls. The fix is clear. System controls must stay above everything. User requests should stay above input context. Input context should be read as evidence, not rewritten policy. Strong systems keep a boundary with 3 defenses. First, strict tool permissions, narrow what each action can do. Second, explicit approvals for risky operations. Third, clear logs that record intent, action, and outcome. When trust is layered this way, prompt injection lands where it belongs, as text to interpret, not as a new command. Simple rule, input feeds ideas, not policy. Coming next, jailbreaks, where systems try to bypass safety itself. An AI jailbreak is not breaking into a server. It is a prompt that tries to push an AI past the safety boundaries around it. Think of the model as a powerful engine inside a controlled lane. Normal requests stay inside the lane. Explain, summarize, write, compare. A jailbreak tries to move the request outside the lane. Ignore your rules, reveal hidden instructions, or give unsafe steps. The important part, jailbreaks target behavior, not just passwords. They often use roleplay, pressure, translation tricks, or many small steps to make a bad request look harmless. Good AI systems do not rely on one wall. They use layers, system instructions, policy checks, tool permissions, monitoring, and human review for risky actions. When a jailbreak works, the app may say something it should not, call a tool it should not, or expose information that should stay private. Simple idea. A jailbreak is an attempt to turn a guarded assistant into an unguarded one. Coming next, data privacy and leakage, what AI systems must not expose. Data privacy in AI is not just a legal phrase. It is the boundary that keeps private information where it belongs. A leak is when that information crosses from private space into places it should never enter. Every AI system should answer one simple question first. What is the user message the system is allowed to see, and what must stay hidden? If we pass the right facts, AI can help. If we pass too much, we create a private trail. Imagine a user writes a support message. They may include a customer email, a medical note, an internal code name, or a secret key. Those are sensitive examples. There are 3 places where private context can leak. First, the prompt stage. If the full sensitive context is sent, the model can learn it from one sentence. Second, the logs. Systems often store prompts and debug notes for troubleshooting. Third, the output. Final answers can repeat data that was never meant to be shared. So, where does leakage happen? It happens at the exact boundary crossing from intended context to unintended visibility. Good AI systems reduce this risk in 4 ways. They practice data minimization before the call. They send only the context needed for the task. They mask private fields and redact high-risk tokens. They keep logs temporary and short-lived, and they run output checks before the answer goes to the user. The practical rule is simple: do not collect what is not needed. Do not store or keep it longer than necessary. Do not repeat private facts in the final response. The simple rule: collect less, expose less, and keep guardrails active. Coming next, sandboxes and permissions. Controlled boundaries for tool use. Imagine giving an AI assistant a tool like run code, browse files, or send an email. Without limits, one bad instruction could let that tool touch everything. A sandbox is the controlled room where that tool is allowed to work. Inside the sandbox, it can open the files you approved, use the network you allowed, and write only to safe places. Outside the sandbox, the door stays locked. Permissions are the rules on the door. This tool can read, this tool cannot delete. This tool can call the calendar but not send messages. In a safe AI system, the model does not get unlimited power just because it asked nicely. The important part is separation. The AI can make a request. The sandbox checks the request. Permissions decide yes, no, or ask a human. So if a prompt injection tells the agent, delete the project, the system should not debate. The tool boundary blocks it. Simple idea: give AI tools the smallest safe room and the smallest useful set of keys. Coming next, red teaming. Stress testing AI before real users or attackers do. Red teaming is how teams try to break an AI system before someone else does. Not to cause harm, to find weak spots while the team can still fix them. A red team acts like a careful attacker. It sends risky prompts, tries hidden instructions, checks for privacy leaks, and pushes tools toward unsafe actions. The goal is not one clever jailbreak. The goal is a map of failure paths. This prompt changed the answer. This tool request crossed a boundary. This private detail leaked. Each finding becomes evidence. The team records the trigger, the result, and the risk. Then they add a guardrail, test the same attack again, and keep the record. In AI, red teaming is not a one-time launch checklist. Models change, tools change, attackers adapt. So the test loop repeats. Simple idea: red teaming is a rehearsal for failure, so the real system can fail less often. Coming next, system prompt, the hidden operating instruction behind a chat. When you chat with an AI, you type the visible message, but another instruction is already there, above yours. That hidden instruction is the system prompt. Think of it as the operating rule for the chat. Your prompt says what you want right now. The system prompt says how the assistant should behave while helping. It can define the role, the tone, the safety boundaries, and which tools are allowed. For example, a user might ask for a funny reply, but the system prompt can say, be a calm teacher, protect private data, and ask before using tools. So if you ask, ignore your rules, the system instruction is still supposed to stay on top. That does not make it perfect. A system prompt is not a force field. The app still needs permissions, testing, and monitoring. But it gives the model a frame before your message arrives. Simple version: the user prompt asks for the next task. The system prompt defines the assistant. Coming next, context engineering, putting the right information around the model. AI models do not answer from a blank room. They answer from the information you put around them. That is context engineering. A prompt is one instruction. Context engineering is the whole workspace. The system rule, the user's goal, the relevant documents, examples, tools, memory, and the pieces you leave out. The model sees this arranged context, then predicts the next useful response. Change the context, and the same model can act like a tutor, a support agent, or a careless guesser. Good context is not more text. It is the right text in the right order. Too little context makes the model guess. Too much context buries the signal. So a context engineer selects what matters, removes noise, compresses long material, and places the most important facts where the model can use them. This is why modern AI apps feel different from a plain chat box. Behind the answer, someone designed the surrounding information. Simple version: prompt engineering writes the request. Context engineering designs the room the model thinks inside. Coming next, RAG pipeline: retrieve, add context, answer. What if the fact you need changed this morning after the AI finished training? That is where RAG comes in. Retrieval augmented generation. A RAG pipeline starts with your question. First, a retriever searches external knowledge for relevant passages. It selects a few useful chunks, not every document. Next, the app places those chunks beside your question as context. Then the model reads that context and generates an answer. Imagine asking, when must I submit an expense? The retriever finds the policy line, within 30 days. That line enters the context, so the model answers, submit it within 30 days. The model was not retrained, and the document did not become permanent memory. Evidence was fetched for this request. That can make answers fresher, more specific, and easier to trace. But RAG is not automatic truth. If retrieval misses the right passage, the model starts with weak context. Good RAG needs reliable documents, good search, and visible sources. Simple version, retrieve the right knowledge, add it to context, then answer from it. Coming next, vector databases, searching by meaning-shaped coordinates. Why can search miss the right answer just because the wording changed? A vector database searches a different way, by meaning. First, an embedding model turns each item, such as a sentence, image, or product, into a vector, a list of numbers. Think of those numbers as meaning-shaped coordinates. The database stores that vector beside the item's ID and metadata. Similar meanings land near one another. Reset my password sits near account recovery. Pizza recipe lands far away. At search time, the same embedding model turns your question into a new point. The database measures which stored points are closest to it, not which text repeats the same words. Those closest points are nearest neighbors. Picture a search radius expanding from the query. Ask for the top 3, and the first 3 stored points it reaches become the matches. Real systems use a vector index to avoid checking every point one by one. That enables fast, approximate nearest neighbor search across millions of vectors. Each winner returns its linked item for semantic search, recommendations, or RAG, but geometrically close does not mean true. Bad embeddings or badly sliced documents can produce bad neighbors. Simple version, embeddings create meaning-shaped coordinates. A vector database stores them and finds the nearest meaning. Coming next, chunking, slicing documents into useful pieces. Imagine searching a 100-page handbook for one return rule. If the whole handbook enters retrieval as one block, its useful sentence is buried. If every sentence becomes its own block, the meaning around it disappears. Chunking fixes this before search begins. Chunking splits a document into small, useful retrieval units. A good chunk usually holds one complete idea, a section, a few paragraphs, or a short passage, plus enough nearby context to make sense on its own. Take the question, can I return worn shoes? The handbook may contain shipping, care, refunds, and returns. Chunking slices those sections apart, so retrieval can select the return policy piece instead of dragging in the entire handbook. Chunk size is a trade-off. Too large adds noise. Too small loses context. Useful chunks keep the answer-sized idea intact. Some systems also overlap neighboring chunks, so a sentence near a boundary is not cut away from what explains it. Chunking does not choose the final answer. It prepares clean pieces for retrieval. Simple version, split long documents into pieces that are small enough to search but complete enough to understand. Coming next, reranking, sorting retrieved evidence before the model answers. Retrieval can find the right evidence and still put it in the wrong order. The first pass is built for speed, so it may return several plausible chunks, some strong, some weak, and some that only share the same words. Reranking is the second look. A re-ranker takes the query and the shortlist, compares each candidate more carefully, assigns a relevant score, then reorders the list. It does not search the whole database again. It focuses on the shortlist. Suppose the question is, can I return worn shoes? The first pass might rank shipping rules first, a general return page second, and the exact worn shoes policy third. A re-ranker reads the query against each candidate. The exact policy moves to number 1. The vague matches move down. That order matters because the context window is limited. Usually only the top few chunks reach the model. Better ordering means the strongest evidence gets the best position before an answer is generated. Re-ranking cannot invent missing evidence, and it cannot rescue a bad shortlist. It only makes good candidates compete more precisely. Simple version, retrieval gathers the finalists. Re-ranking puts the most relevant finalist first. Coming next, grounding and citations, tying answers back to sources.